In the previous videos, we have learned in detail about variables, constants, operators and data types that are supported by Python. In this video, we will see in detail about how Python supports input and output operations. Now let's try to understand how a value can be taken from the keyboard, that is from the user. So that is, we are going to discuss about the interactive user input. So Python supports a statement which allows you for the interactive input from the user. So the statement is the input statement. So you can use the method input to read a value from the keyboard. This function takes one and only one argument, and as an argument you need to pass so whatever the prompt you would like to give to the user. Say for example, I would like to give the prompt as enter a value. So the method input with a single argument, so which is the prompt. So using this statement you can read a value from the keyboard. Now if you observe, so it's giving a prompt enter value. So this is the message that you have passed as an argument to this method input. Now you need to understand one thing, the input method returns a string value. So that is, whatever the type of value you are reading from keyboard, that value will be converted to the string and will be returned by this input method. Now let's assign the value you are reading from the keyboard into the variable yes, and let's check out that. So I'm entering the value 50, and if you would like to check the type of this variable yes, where you are storing the entered value, so you can use the type method. So if you observe, it's returning a string value. Though you are entering an integer value or whatever the type of value you enter, so this input method receives that as a string and will be storing that value as a string to the variable. Now if you would like to convert to the other type, you can use the type conversion. Say for example, I would like to read an integer value from keyboard. Then what I can do is, I can use the same statement itself, but so on top of the statement, so I am using a type conversion. So here I would like to read an integer value, so I am converting this string value, whatever I am reading as a string value, so that will be converted to integer using this int method. Now if you observe, so I am going to read this value 10 and that value is stored in the variable yes. Now you can check the type of this variable yes. So if you observe, now it's converted to integer. So though the input method is returning a string value, so you can explicitly convert that to the integer type or whatever the type you would like to using the type conversion. So here if you observe, so you are using the explicit type conversion. So that's how you can read any type of value from the keyboard. So this is how Python supports the interactive input. So now let's have a look at how we can read a floating type of value from keyboard. So the same way, so the same statement can be used. The only change is, instead of converting that to the integer, here you are converting that to float type. So explicitly you are converting the value you are reading from the keyboard to the float type. So the value you are entering is 3.4, so which is a float type. So now if you observe, so s is having a float, and if you observe, the type of the variable s is also float type. That is how interactive input is supported by Python using the input method. Reading a string type of value in Python is straightforward because the input method directly reads a value and returns the value as a string itself. So here Python is a string I am entering. So if you observe, s is the variable which stores the Python, so whatever the string that you entered, and the type of the variable also you can check here, so it's a string type. So that is how you can read any type of value, the scalar type of value from the keyboard. So now let's see how you can display the value. Here using the interactive shell environment, so whenever you type the variable, its value can be displayed interactively. But when you are using the script mode, then how do we do that? So let's have a look at that. Python supports to display any value or a variable or any object onto the display device. So it supports the print method. So here print is a method which supports the displaying of values onto the, say for example here you can see, so we are passing the value 10 to display that value. So similarly you can display the other types of constants also. Maybe I am displaying a floating point type value, and similarly you can even display a string value. So by passing a string to the method print. So Python is a string I would like to display. So this is how any constant can be directly passed to the print method to display that value. So this is how we can display a single value. So here you can observe, so 10 is displayed, 10.5 is displayed, Python is displayed. As we are passing these values to different print methods, every print statement that we are using here is displaying one value. So you can even display all these values using a single print method also. So for example, 10 comma 10.5 comma Python. So all the three values together I would like to display using a single print statement itself. That is also valid. So here you can observe 10 is displayed, then 10.5, then Python. So when you would like to display multiple values using a single print method, then all the values that you would like to display, they can be separated by commas. So that's how you can even display multiple values with the help of a single print statement itself. And you need to observe one thing. So when you are passing multiple values, you need to separate them by comma here, and while displaying those values will be separated by a single space, because the separator value that is used with the print statement is a space. That is how each value you are passing as an argument to the print method, they are separated with spaces. Not only the literal values, it is also possible to pass the values that are available in the variables. So you just need to pass those variables whenever you would like to display the values that are stored in those variables. Here, single print statement is used to display the values in the variables a, b and s. So on execution of this code, you can observe that all the values that are stored in these variables are displayed. So 10 space 4.5 space Python. So this is how a print method can be used to display either the literal values or the values that are stored in the variables. Not only the scalar values, it is also valid to display the collection variables using the print method. Now let's create one of the collection variable. So I am displaying a list here. So Python supports special data types which allows you to store the collection of values. So I have created a list, and then so I am going to create one tuple. So where a tuple is also a collection of elements. Now I am going to display a list and the tuple that is stored in the variable t. Now let's execute this code and see. If you observe, so using the first print statement, you are passing the variable L, and as a result you are displaying 10, 20, 30 and 40, which is the list that is stored in the variable L. And similarly the second print statement, so that is displaying the values that are stored in the tuple variable t. So that is 10, 20, 30, 40. So that is how it is. That is how print method can be used to display values onto the standard output device in Python. Now consider these three variables a, b and s. Now I would like to display these values. I am using different print statement to display all these three variables. On execution of this code, so you can see they are displayed in different lines. So 10 is displayed in a separate line, 4.5 is displayed in a separate line, and 2 is displayed in a separate line. The reason for displaying each value by each print method is the default value assigned for this end parameter is /n, which stands for the new line. So that is the reason why, so after displaying the value using the print method, so a new line will be displayed. Now if you would like to change that, so you can change that by passing a different value. Say for example, I would like to display 6 different star symbols. Now let's execute this code and see. So if you observe, so after displaying the first value that is passed to the print method, that is 10, so it is displaying 6 asterisk symbols, as the end parameter you set that to the 6 star symbols. So and after that you are getting the value of b. And as the default value that is set in this print method is the default value, that is new line, that is how you are getting a new line, and then the next value is displayed. So if you would like to change that, you can also change that to 6 asterisk symbols. So say for example here, so you can see, so after displaying a value that is passed to the print method, the value that you would like to display is this asterisk symbols. So that is how you can change the default value that has to be displayed with the print statement. Now I hope you understand, so how the default value that is displayed after the print method can be changed. So the default one is new line, and you can change it to whatever the symbols that you would like to display. Now consider this code snippet where to the same print method 3 different values are passed. So now let's execute this code and see what happens. So if you observe, all the 3 values are displayed in the same line itself, but separated with a single space. So the reason for getting this space separation between the values of the variables is, so the space symbol is the default value that is set with the parameter separator for the print method. So that is how we are getting a space separated values when we display multiple values using this single print method. You can pass whatever the value you would like to display between these values by passing them as a value to the separator argument. Now let's execute this code and see. So each value that is displayed using this print method is separated by 3 hash symbols. So we set that by using the separator method. So now I hope you understand how you can change the default values of the print method. So you can use a separator parameter to change the value that is displayed between the values that are displayed using the single print method, and you can set the value to the end parameter if you would like to change the value that is to be displayed after displaying the print method. So here you can even observe the single print method itself. You can set both the separator value and the end value. So here using this statement, I would like to display 3 hash symbols as a separator between the values, and after displaying these values, I would like to display 4 asterisk symbols. Now let's execute this code and see. So you can observe the values are separated with the separator symbols, and whatever the value you are passing with the end argument, so after displaying this print statement, so that symbols will be displayed. That's how you can set the separator value and the end value for the print method in Python. Now I hope you understand how Python allows us for the interactive input by using the input method, and how print method allows us to display the values onto the standard output device. Thank you for watching this video.